Welcome to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thanks for joining us. I am Tamara Scott, and you are listening. For those of you listening, apologies. We have a pre-taped segment with David Barton. Stay tuned. You will hear it here shortly. And in the show we broadcast on 99.3 FM, it will be in its entirety without interruption. Thank you so much. And we're still having technical difficulties, so I will stay with you. Now, Maddie's my producer today. Maddie, when we do the show on Sunday, then will this part not be in the show on Sunday? Yes or no? Will this part be in the show on Sunday, or will we go to the clip with David Barton? Okay. So this is just for those of you, gosh, it's a special edition. It's an exclusive for those of you who follow online. You're going to get a little bit extra until we have everything fixed here. And I'm watching your cue, Maddie, because we want to get to that with David Barton. And it's going to be a little bit difficult because we may have to wait on that. Maddie, if you want to, I don't know if you can do how many things you can handle. If you want to call Gregg, his phone number's in there. You go ahead and call him, and we'll put him in this segment for those who are listening today, because we're not going to be able to probably get the Barton piece in there with the time at this point. For those of you who are following along online, and I hear we have sometimes 24,000 people. Is it going? All right, then tune me out and tune in David Barton. And you are listening to Truth for Our Time. And joining me right now on our line is David Barton. You've heard me interview David Barton before. He is what I consider a national treasury for the nation, his wisdom, his history, and his ability to analyze and strategize what happens after elections and what we need to do looking into elections. But David Barton, thank you so much for joining me.
Great to be with you, Tamara. Thank you.
And let me tell our listeners, wallbuilders.com is where you can find David or any of his writings, his documents, his helpful books, and Original Intent was one of them I enjoyed, and my kids all had to read it when they went through high school. But the Founders Bible, David, you are responsible for helping us have the Founders Bible. And how can people get information about the Founders Bible?
Easy way to do that is go to wallbuilders.com, and there is a button right there on the front page about the Founders Bible and the Founders Bible app as well.
All right. So I thank you for joining me. You've done this with me in the past, and it's such an honor and blessing to have you analyze the election. Last night, for those of you who are listening, we are taping this on Wednesday, November 9th. For me, David, it is a sigh of relief. Am I overjoyed? Yes, I am excited because I feel like someone put a meme on Facebook. America was in critical condition in the intensive care unit, and last night we got a chance at life again. And so, and I don't think Donald Trump is going to be perfect. I think he's going to make an error, as all men have in the Bible and otherwise. But I feel like we have a reprieve, and I hope we're good stewards of it. What's your take?
Yeah, I think we have a reprieve. I think Trump will turn out to be better than most people anticipate he will be. He is not the political model, and by the way, the exit polling last night showed that overwhelmingly, probably the number one driving factor was a desire for change. Exit polling showed that for both Republicans and Democrats, the public pretty much said a pox on both your houses at the federal level. They did not say that at the state level. At the state level, Republicans made some fairly significant gains, gaining the legislature in Kentucky for the first time in 95 years, making gains in Iowa, a number of legislative areas that Republicans may gain in. So at the federal level, they did not like the partisan stuff that's happening, but they certainly rewarded Republicans at the lower levels, and even that they did not punish them nationally. There was only one Republican Senate seat that is gone. There's still one out. We don't know yet. When I went to bed to read this morning, I did live TV coverage last night for 9 hours, and so when we went off air and turned in, we still don't know what New Hampshire is. We will not know Louisiana until December, because they have a jungle primary. So all they did last night was choose the two people that they will vote for Senate in another 3 to 4 weeks. But that one's expected to stay Republican. In the House, it looks like Republicans lost 4 seats, but they still control the majority there. There's still 4 undecided at this point. So at this point, Republicans were not punished nationally, but polling-wise, people send a real clear message. We don't like what's happening right now with either one, and we want some definite changes. And so at this point, Republicans have a president, a House, and a Senate. And can they deliver? And I think the biggest problem will not be Trump. It will be probably over in the Senate with Mitch McConnell. And the good thing about Trump is he is not hesitant to call out people who are roadblocking. So I think the pressure will be on McConnell more than anyone else to be able to move some things forward. A number of the things that Trump has promised rated very high in exit polling, from repeal of Obamacare to Supreme Court justices to rebuilding military, etc. So if the Senate becomes the impediment and roadblock there, then they're going to look at having been, they will be punished in 2 years, no question about it.
I absolutely agree, and I hope they're punished with primaries rather than generals, and we lose control and end up with another roadblock and further gridlock. So David, we're heading into what we call a lame duck session. What do you think? You had such a great outlook and wise direction for us in 2014 when I asked you this question. You were dead on about Obama trying to force through regulatory overreach and laws through the bureaucratic branches. What do you see happening now with this lame duck?
Well, he can't get anything done through the House or the Senate. I think both of those bodies feel like there is going to be a mandate. I mean, when's the last time a Republican won Michigan or won Wisconsin, or, was even that close in Pennsylvania and won Pennsylvania? There is going to be, for Democrats, I think there's going to be a real sense that we ticked the people off and they didn't like this. And they can say, well, we didn't have a very good candidate, but nonetheless, the fact that Republicans did not pay a price down below Clinton says something about it. So I think what he'll have to do is executive orders, and he will work through agencies to increase regs. Now, at this point, I know that Trump's people are watching the regs. He gave his Gettysburg Address 2 weeks ago, and he said, every new reg that goes into effect, you have to repeal 2 regs. So whatever comes through with executive order, one of the first things he intends to do is start repealing executive orders that he believes are wrong. So the effect of the lame duck of this presidency will be for the next four weeks or so. They're not going to be able to push any judges through. They will not be able to push any major policy through. They will push regulatory policy, and anything they do can be repealed because it all have to be done by executive order rather than the statutory thing. So I think in this case the damage will be somewhat limited and will be temporary, but we'll see.
And we still will have to come back, and we've got so many regulations now costing the family an average of $15,000 a year. These cost of regulatory fees, surcharges, licensing, fines, etc. So hopefully we will get that taken care of as well.
As you point out with that, I don't know that people recognize this, but one of the things I watched last night, and before I say what they recognize, let me point out there were 154 ballot initiatives on the ballot last night. And so within those ballot initiatives, I really watched those because that told me even early on that Virginia and Colorado were going to go for Clinton and not for Trump, because the ballot initiatives, people were voting very, very liberal on those ballot initiatives. And so there were several ballot initiatives that were designed to hurt corporations, make them pay higher taxes, to change the wage structures they use, etc. And when you do that, you always increase the consumer price. Corporations never pay taxes ever, right. And if you say you have to pay higher wages, what you've said is I'm going to charge you more for your loaf of bread. Your gasoline is going to go up. So businesses never paid. They always passed it on to the consumer. So what happened last night was people voted higher prices for themselves on consumer goods. So when you look at regulations, every regulation that comes through to a business is something that the people, not the businesses, will pay for. If the businesses can't pay for it, they go out of business, and then you lose jobs, etc. So having said that, as you point out, that $14,000 to $15,000 cost in regulations, that is 1/4 of the average family's income. Mm-hmm. So by reducing regulations, what families can do is they can see an increase of up to 25% income in their family without doing anything except getting rid of regulations. And so that will be a huge issue. Senator Mike Lee of Utah has a great visual that he does on this. He keeps in his office 2 stacks. One stack is every time a law is signed by the president, went through the House, went through the Senate, signed by the president, he takes that entire law and stacks it on the floor. And so all the laws signed by the president, I think there was about 127 that the president signed last year. All of those laws he has right there on a stack on the floor. Beside it, he has all the regulatory laws that went through last year. And the regulatory laws that went through are laws that also give they give a penalty, they give a fine, they establish crimes, they establish procedures, even judicially, but nobody votes on them. They're just issued by bureaucrats. And in Mike's office, you will find that the stack of laws signed by the president, acted by House and Senate, is 4 inches high. The stack of laws enacted by regulatory folks is over 11 feet high. 99% of all laws passed in the United States right now never get voted on by the House or the Senate or signed by the President. And so the ability to eliminate 11 feet a year of regulations as opposed to 4 inches a year of laws passed through the Congress is going to be a huge, huge impact if that can be done. And, of course, Obama will try to increase that stack to 14 feet by the time the lame duck section is over. But, again, those are things that the next President Trump has said that he's going to try to knock down.
Absolutely. And I want to touch just folks on that $15,000 a year. David said you don't have to do a thing. It's already in your income tax. You don't even get an increase in your income tax.
That's right.
Think that through. So that would be such a benefit. And of course, the only thing that might be the problem is Obamacare, because then you might have to pay a larger. You wouldn't get the subsidy, perhaps. I don't know how that would work for your taxes, but that's something we hope to correct anyway. David, there's so many things I want to ask you. We have 5.5 million jobs open across the country, and yet employment's at an all-time high. I'm hopeful that Trump will fix some of that. But 2, I want to talk, the media couldn't have missed it anymore last night. Through the election, through the primary, everything they said that would not happen, happened. And now we have to warn people, in my opinion, that everything they say is going to happen with this presidency will likely not happen either. People do need to be careful not to panic and listen to the media. They have been totally out of step on this.
Well, the media is way out of step, and by the way, polls were as well. I ran one of Cruz's super PACs back in the primary season, and by the second primary, we saw that our polls weren't even right on what was happening with turnout. And so the polling models are all wrong at this point. And because of 24/7, 365 cable news, you're also at a point where that polls no longer report what's happening. They're used to make the news. And so you make news of the poll and you talk about it for 2 days, and we need another poll to talk about for 2 days. And so the polls are extremely inaccurate. One of my very good friends in Congress got defeated in this last election. He's been in 14 years, one of the most politically astute guys I know, and going into his election 3 months ago, primary night, he was up 10 points, but he lost by 25 points. Now, nobody in Congress is 35 points off in a poll. So the polling dynamics are different. 41% of the voters in this election were projected to be millennials. It turned out to be about 36%, but millennials do not have landlines. Polling is based on making landline calls, not on cell phone calls. And then you get what's called the Bradley effect, where people don't tell you the truth. And just the whole model is completely flawed. So one thing that became clear was polls are totally bad. With that, the way the media portrays them and spins them, they made their expectations on what the polls said, which were flawed. And then you look at all the major people who covered news last night, with very few exceptions, did any of the national commentators even personally know a single person who voted for Trump? They were in a sphere where that everybody they knew voted for Clinton, so they have an echo chamber going on. They're not out there, and their polls are showing what they're showing. and say they live in this unreal world. And now this morning, I mean, it was interesting last night, even as we were on air, we were watching other channels, and some of the national news anchors were actually crying over the results last night. And you go, are you kidding? You're supposed to be reporting the news.
Right.
You clearly are not. So that's going to be of interest, and because of that, they are so personally wounded and disappointed. You have to really watch the tone that comes out of the media for a while, and they're going to be looking for stories to justify why that they weren't wrong after all, and why that something else is really the cause. So it'll be obfuscation for a bit, and people are just going to have to be smart enough to say, no. You guys have an agenda. You have a bias. You haven't been wrong. You haven't been right about this thing for 15 months, and you're not suddenly becoming right now that the election's over.
All right. So David Barton has been my guest today. David, I thank you for taking time out. I know you had a long night last night during election night, but thank you so much for everything you do. Folks, you can find him at wallbuilders.com. And David, you send out newsletters where folks can get your newsletters, right?
We do. They can sign up on the website at wallbuilders.com, and then we send regular messages out with history in the news and things that are in the news. So we don't bombard them with solicitations, etc. We send out things I think they'll find interesting and enjoyable.
Always appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking time out for us. David Barton, wallbuilders.com. Folks, we'll be right back with our next segment. Stay tuned.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thanks for joining us. You are listening to Tamara Scott, Truth for Our Time, and I hope you appreciated that quick analysis from David Barton only hours after the President-elect Donald Trump was declared the victor. And how unfortunate that Hillary Clinton, who chided, scolded, chastised, and scoffed him on multiple occasions, for saying that he wasn't sure how he would respond to the election results. Again, once again, on the campaign trail, that's the second time he's shown wisdom in a debate, answered in a way that people ridiculed him for, and then those same people ended up doing exactly what he said he was not sure he wouldn't do. It happened when he said he wasn't sure if he would pledge behind the others in the first debate for the primary for the Republicans. And as it turns out, many of them failed in their pledge that they so quickly took. Reminds you of a story of the Bible about the two sons. One says he will do something and doesn't, and the other one doesn't want to do it but ends up doing the right thing. And then this last debate with Hillary Clinton, she just had such a hissy fit over the fact that he was not sure how he would respond. And then here we have her that evening. John Podesta comes out, and I was so frustrated because I thought, what does he know? Telling people to go to bed. How does he know that no other state's going to complete their counting? What power does he have over these states to say that they will not declare a winner? And then shortly after, as if some feel that they knew when he made this comment, it was untruthful at the time he made it. He knew that they were going to declare a winner. She was just unprepared to handle it. Some say she had 2 speeches written. I'm not so sure myself. I wonder. I think it was a false humility that they even said that. I don't think she ever thought for a moment that she was going to win, although I wonder, since she canceled the fireworks, if maybe she had an inkling. I just don't know. But that she was not able to come out and face the truth and concede in a respectable manner that evening was just extremely disappointing. And if she was so tired and frail, that also is then confirmation to us physically that she was not up to the job. She used to have the phone call about the 3 a.m. phone call, and who do you want to answer it? Well, we now know she wouldn't have been there. She didn't answer the 3 p.m. phone call when people needed help in Benghazi. So we are coming off of this election. I do feel strongly we have a reprieve, unjustified mercy, not undeserved mercy, and I hope that we are good stewards of it. I hope that we are good stewards of the opportunity God has given us to correct this nation. Joining me on the phone now is someone who has fought for this nation. We know the Declaration of Independence tells us that our rights are endowed by our Creator. But the thing that sets us apart from so many other nations, in our liberties and in our political process, where we have a say, we the people have a say over who governs us, and we'll talk about that more in our next segment with Gregg Cummings, a veteran. But right now, we're going to go to the line with a man who fought World War II to help us secure those liberties and protect the process which we just enjoyed in our elections, being peaceful. Thank you so much, Marion Jaycox, for joining me.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I am just fine.
It is a joy and an honor for me to have you on my program.
Well, this is an honor to be able to tell you about a few of the instances that happened over in Europe in World War II. I do it for all those that we have left over in Europe and those that have come home with PTSD and are still able to contribute so much to our society and bring home and fought so hard for the freedom that we enjoy today.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, let's just tell them you are from Northwest Iowa, and do you mind giving them your age?
I am 94 now.
You are a sharp 94-year-old.
I have been very blessed. I have been led a very wonderful and a life that has its ups and downs, as always life does. But to live this long and enjoy each day is something that I'm nothing but being blessed.
Well, we are blessed to have you and to have you be able to share these stories with us. I met Marion Jaycox at a Northwest Republican event where Senator Jeff Sessions spoke, Senator Chuck Grassley spoke, Senator John Thune spoke, and Benghazi survivor and hero Chris Tonto Peranto spoke as well. But you, sir, gave the pledge, and it was just such a privilege to hear your story. You entered. Tell us how you went to World War I. You were what age?
I was at 21 when I entered the service in December the 5th in 1943. I'll give you a little background of my service. before to tell you about my service.
Okay.
I attended a couple years of college after high school, and Wayne State teachers in Nebraska. My folks, in the meantime, moved to Iowa, so I was prepared for upper elementary, but I found on my service status, I had to settle for a rural school in Minnesota. And I got that under my belt, and I was deferred to finish my year of school. And at the meantime, a friend broke his leg doing a farm work, and he asked me if I'd stay and help him farm that 160 acres if he'd give me a farm permit. And I figured I owed it to a friend more than I was anxious to get in the service, so I stayed out until December the 5th of that year of 43. Now, upon entering service, I was also taking an ASTP program test, and this is Army Specialized Training Program, which they were going to send us to school to be engineers and doctors. So I'll say, to get that on my way, I had to take basic, and I did that in Fort Benning, Georgia. And along with all these young people, 18, 19 years, that had just finished high school and had finished some college, and were going into the same program I was. And upon, after we were supposed to have 16 weeks of basic, they reduced it to 12 weeks because they needed to oversee. So they moved our young group of, I would say, bright students, and after taking basic, to take advanced training in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and it was into the 100th Infantry Division, an Eastern Division. And with them, I stayed all through up till the time I was captured in France in February 1944.
1944. So you were captured in France. And so what was the day or the battle in which you were taken captive?
I didn't understand that question.
What was the battle in which?
Oh, the battle?
Yeah, where they took you captive.
It was called the Battle of the Argonne. It was in the rural area of France, near Nancy, France. I was in 2 battles in that area in France before, and I was captured in a little town called Bitchy, Bitche, in the Bitch. And on account of that, the 100th Division Association has adopted a model that we're the Sons of Bitch.
And give me that motto again.
The Sons of Bitch. And we have an organization, 100th Division. I have attended since I retired. After I have back from the service, I suffered quite a bit from PTSD, and to going back to teaching, this seemed like it would be an impossibility. So I took a job with Montgomery Wards in Spencer, Iowa, and was with them for a short time. My brother at the same time came home from the service. We decided we'd go in a restaurant business. So we settled at a restaurant in Sanborn, Iowa, Jay's Restaurant and Lounge. And I had been there. I was there for 40 years before I retired, and my son has been there for the next 30 years. So this spring in April, we celebrated 70 years in the family.
So your son runs it now. He's run it for 30 years, and that's Terry. I met Terry with you that evening, and that is in Spencer, Iowa, and it's called Jay's?
Yeah, this is Sanborn, Iowa now, the Jay's Restaurant and Lounge.
Sanborn, Iowa.
Very good. That's just a little bit story afterwards and before. Okay. And then I have the story about the big thing that's with me every day, and that's the battle and being a prisoner in Germany.
So, and I don't want to ask you to share anything that's too painful or harmful for you to remember, but if you want to take us through that day, Maddie, we've got 5 minutes left, so if you can squeeze that into 5 minutes, and I know you can because you did it in 2 minutes.
Okay, I will go right back when I was captured. It was a 3-man patrol, and we had taken it several nights, and the Germans got wise to it, so we were ambushed with about 12 Germans that were waiting for us. And after we had a little firefight, I left one one person that was supposedly dead on the road, and I was in the ditch, and my assistant squad leader got away. But I thought it was my assistant squad leader that got hit, so I grieved for him for 6 months. But later, after I got home, I received a letter from him, and the person that had got hit, named Walter Mann, and he had survived miraculously after being shot 3 times and playing dead. He crawled back to the outpost and made it. So many times I cheated death. I was blessed so many times, being shot at and being missed and hit and being artillery. We went into combat after landing in Marseille, France, on February the 9th. November the 9th, 1944. And after 100 days on the front line, that's when I was captured, on February 19th. But battle is hell, war is hell. We lived in one of the worst winter conditions in just foxholes. All the time I was 100 days in the combat and 70 days of prisoners, I had 1 shower and 1 change of clothes. And that was January 44, until I was liberated in Augsburg, Germany, in April the 29th. That was after 70 days, traveling across Germany, first by boxcars and then by foot for about 200 miles. We, in fact, arrived in Frankfurt at one time after being on the boxcar for 3 days with very little food and water, and we were just out to relieve ourselves, and the civilians were there ready to hang us because their families had been bombed the night before, which you could hardly blame them. But the soldiers put us back on the trains real quick and got us out of there. That was another time I escaped death, but in battle many times I did. So after I was captured, doing all this, I finally arrived in Augsburg and left behind. And by that time, we had 4,000 or 5,000 people and prisoners that was marching. But I was on sick, evidently a little sick, so I stayed back in Augsburg to see. They're going to take me to hospital, and there was 4 of us. And by that time, we we went across town to get a box of Red Cross parcels that we had begged the Germans to let us get. And we finally were so hungry, we had been starving for the 70 days. And when we got back, we hid in a bomb shelter so the Germans wouldn't use us for our target practice when they retreated through the town of Augsburg. And finally someone said, the Americans are here. And we went up and seen a colonel in a Jeep, and of all things, this is what I remember very vividly. There was an American flag. Freedom. That flag of USA represented our freedom. And this is something that we all live under today, that flag.
Marion?
That's why I think it's so important.
You did it perfectly. I've got to go to a break. If you can stay on the phone, I'll touch base with you right closely when we get done, but you did it perfectly for time. We'll be right back after these messages.
Thank you.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed raters free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, still fixed right or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
And thanks for listening. You are listening to Tamara Scott, Truth for Our Time. And we have on the phone with us World War II veteran and prisoner of war, Marion Jaycox. Marion, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Sum up the service, you say?
Pardon me?
What did you ask me to do?
I just thanked you for sharing your story with us. And at the very end, you gave us one line, and that's all I'm going to ask you to say to our listeners, and then I'll let you go. You gave us one line, and I just want to make sure everybody hears it. You talked to us about the need to protect and the privilege we have today.
Yes.
Can you just repeat that for our listeners?
One line, I just don't understand.
The very last thing you said to us about protecting our liberties we have today. Can you just repeat that?
The thought is, freedom is not free.
You're right.
Remember the people that have fought so hard and still carry those memories with them today, and all those that we have left behind.
And you mentioned people still over in Europe. Do you have any idea how many prisoners of war we still have?
Yes, in Iowa, there are probably less than 200. But remember, there was a whole division captured in the Battle of the Bulge, and that was nearly 15,000. So there were thousands and thousands of prisoners across Germany.
And we think many of them are still prisoners
And
today?
there's only that, and that is a lot of them, because I go to the VA, which has been very good to me, from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and they have only 7 POWs left, and that is from World War II to Vietnam War and Korean War and all others. So Iowa had quite a few because there were so many of them that were in the wrong place at the wrong time and got captured.
Well, I thank you so much for your service, and I am thankful that God has preserved you, as you said, escaping death many times. But not only has He preserved you on the battlefield, He's preserved you in good health here in Iowa to continue to share your story, and I thank you that you're willing to do that.
Well, I thank you. I thank God every day. I wake up in the morning and think how blessed I am to enjoy another day. So I thank you for having me. God bless USA also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Marion Delbert Jaycox has been my guest today, World War II veteran and prisoner of war. And I don't know about you, but it gives me tears in my eyes. Oh, the honor to have these national treasures with us yet. And so many of them have already passed. We just cherish the moments we have with those that we still can talk to and learn from here today. So, folks, thank you for tuning in this Veterans Day. He is absolutely right. Freedom is not free. Many have paid the cost, and we don't promote war. We do not promote war. We are not pro-war. But we understand that there are those who would commit acts that are more heinous, wicked, and evil than the war that it takes to stop them. And I am thankful for the men and women who are brave enough to take the courage and go to the battlefield and stop those who would literally destroy and annihilate, torture the rest. Thank you to the men and women who serve honorably. Joining me is another veteran, a friend of the show, Gregg Cummings. Gregg, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You are such a dear friend, and I so appreciate what you do. And give us the title, the military branch in which you serve.
I was in the United States Army. I was a paratrooper, ranger, combat engineer for many years.
And so, Gregg, you're one of those that's still in the battle today. It may not be a physical fight in the theater, as they call it, but you are here on the battle line on the home front. And I thank you for being diligent. You continue to fight for our liberties here. And I just want to ask you, one, I know you were honored today at your school, and I'm thrilled that the kids did that for you. I don't know if we'll get that photo back up for our listeners or viewers here who are watching live, but you're in the battle. What you see it, I see it, the battle that we're facing today as we move forward. What would you say to our listeners?
Well, with the idea of Veterans Day, I think a good way to put it is that us veterans that are still alive today in this country, our needs, all of our different needs, they surround the foundation of the acknowledgement that the U.S. citizens need to have in their duty in staying engaged in this republic. That's why we fought. We fought because of the freedoms that we know that we have to fight for and maintain. If we forget where we came from, if we forget our founders' struggle to become free and why we become free, then we cease to become America. And this is what the biggest thing that bothers me about the progressive left is that they talk out of two sides of their mouth so many times. They say that America has never been great. And then they'll turn around almost in the same breath and say it's already great. It just depends on what their are. It depends who they are arguing to, and that just really, really bugs me. And I guarantee it bugs most veterans in this nation. There's an innate feeling our founders had that man has never been free under a government before. There's been a government where a constitution was written to tell the government what it cannot do to the people instead of the other way around. And that's why we fought. And that's why when I see these people protesting now, since the election, they went under two different banners this election season. The first one was with Bernie, a future we can believe in. And then the second one was Hillary that said stronger together. And did nothing but complain about the hate and the bullying and intimidation and destruction and divisiveness of the right and the Republicans and the candidates. And here today we see them themselves are actually fulfilling and leading by that example of bullying, of intimidation, of the hate and divisiveness and anger that they claim is somebody else.
I totally agree, Gregg. And it's amazing, these protesters, first off, who obviously just don't understand the process, and as we've talked about, the privilege of the process in this nation where we can have a change of power peacefully, and we, the people, have the voice and the vote to decide who will govern over us. It was new with America, and These folks don't have any respect for that whatsoever when they're protesting, and shame on the mayors and the elected officials who are saying nothing and not giving any direction. Shame on a president who says he wants a peaceful transition, but refused to take the photo, the traditional photo of the ingoing, outgoing families of the White House. And he could issue a statement and put some rest to this, but there's silence there. They're negligent or they're incompetent, of which it is, I am not sure. But listen to what these people are protesting. When they say, we reject President-elect, that is not just an anti-Trump statement. That is an anti-you statement. That's a protest against your vote, against the process, against our republic, and against a peaceful transition. They don't understand the privilege in which we have in this system, and it is an attack on the very root of our republic, the foundations of our republic. So
I'm glad you said root, because in someone else that's shame on, and that's shame on the principals and the superintendents that allowed students to walk out of their classrooms and their schools to also participate in this hate and divisiveness, and anger. That's one of our biggest roots, is the education system. They don't teach what the founders went through, the struggle of our people. And when I say our people, American.
That's right.
There's no division. There's no color, race, or creed. It's a struggle of mankind's right to be free as a human being, and it's in our Bill of Rights, it's in our Constitution, and it's in our Declaration of Independence. And we have small sections of that in school anymore. We don't have a U.S. history. We have social studies now, and they just slowly but surely turning up that water on that frog boiling in the pot. It's a horrible thing, and it's a disgrace to
our liberty and those who have served to protect our liberties. Gregg Cummings is my guest. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages with more Truth for Our Time.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And you are listening to Truth for Our Time, helping you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. And Gregg Cummings is my guest. And Gregg, I'm so thrilled that you mentioned the schools and the student protest. It is utterly disgusting to me. We've said this, I have said this for a while, that we other than someone like a Trump, I don't know that we could have ever won another election with someone who says they will uphold the Constitution, because the kids in preschool through college are no longer taught to respect the Constitution. They're taught that the Constitution is outdated, the white man is hateful, capitalism doesn't work, and we're greedy as a nation. They have no appreciation for all of the things that we have done for every other nation on the face of this earth. America itself has done more for the woman, the Jew, the black, and the minority, for those who are depressed, for those who are oppressed, for those who are hurting. We have done more across the globe than other nations, and many other nations combined, I believe. And so these kids not only don't understand it, they're being taught the opposite of it. And you brought up the protest in these schools. It is, we've been told by parents in the Des Moines School District that they received emails from the school that they were going to allow these kids to protest. Well, you're promoting it at that point. What kid isn't going to take a day off to be upset about something? You're fomenting, and they were saying in this email that these kids have, many of them are bilingual or second language, and so that they're fearful. Well, they may not have been until you put that email out. These superintendents, if this is indeed true, are stirring up, inciting the fear of these students, when as leaders they should put their political views aside to help people find peace and move forward together peaceably. This is shameful of what's happening in our school system, and I'm hopeful that Trump will follow through and do away with the Department of Education and let states take it back at the local level so we can fix these things handily when people step out of their rules and decide. And we've got the president of Drake with the letter she wrote, and that president wrote, and the video of the president of ISU. I will put all of that on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page so you can all see it and have it. Greg, so thank you for bringing up these students.
Yes. And one thing that these educators know about is ages and stages. And right now, the mental development of these children from 9th through 12th grade right now is prime for setting in motion their future belief systems, their future actions, and so on and so forth. And so when they get that in high school and then go to our colleges, which we already know are so liberal and champion the progressive mindset, which is actually the built in the fabric of anger and divisiveness and us against them mentality, there's little hope for their future. That's why right now, this is my challenge to everyone out there, veterans and non-veterans alike. Get engaged in your government. Be the authority of this republic that you were meant to be. Right now, for the first time since the beginning of the people's movement, the Tea Party movement or the grassroots movement or whatever you want to call it, we have now got the battlefield in the strategic position that we need to have it. From my level, from sheriff, we just voted in our Tea Party member that is now the sheriff, to our state, Gronstal losing and us having a trifecta at the state level, to us having a trifecta at the national level. We have no excuses now.
That's right.
And now is not the time to leave it up to the elected officials to take it and do whatever they want with it. Now is the time for us, we the people, to get engaged with your local, state, and national government elected officials and make sure that they stand true and toe the line to our platform so that we can fix this nation.
Thank you so much. Gregg Cummings has been my guest, and I appreciate your words of wisdom, Greg. Thank you for sharing with us today, and you're absolutely right. We have got to stay in the battle. I love it. I've been using no excuses. We should hashtag no excuses and be good stewards of the reprieve. For those of you, the media missed it. Remember this. They missed it the whole way through the election. They told you what would never happen as it took place right before your eyes. They told you Trump would not be the winner. They were so unconsolable, as you heard David talking about in the first part of this program. They were polluted. The polls, the pundits, and the press have all been poisoned by their own sphere of political hacks and their side of special interest that they had no idea of. They didn't even know folks who had voted for Trump. The pollsters were way off. So my point in bringing this up is they were wrong before. Don't think you can listen to them now. Don't think you can trust them now, whether it's the protest, whether it's Trump. They're still drudging up alleged lawsuits and issues with Trump in the past, rather than the real things happening with Hillary Clinton and our national security and the damage that she has done there. So you cannot pay attention to the mainstream media, and don't let them steal your joy or our hope of the road to recovery that lies before us as we move together in taking our country back and literally making America strong again. And I will just say, the losers in this election were the media, Megyn Kelly certainly, and those members of the media, the press. And unfortunately, I think Trump will welcome in the never-Trumpers. He's already working with Ryan a little bit, and we'll see how that goes. We pray that he holds the line and stays firm, lovingly, kindly, but stays firm. And for those, I just had a friend in distress earlier, had gotten an email from a faith group talking about how mysterious everything was, and he said, no, God isn't mysterious. God doesn't operate in mysterious ways. It is clear. It is clear if you know your Savior. His ways are clear, and God is not mysterious. And people misused their faith as a political weapon rather than a spiritual invitation. And that was, I think, probably the most disheartening thing for me, the saddest thing to watch in this election. Their personal bias got in the way of looking at an almighty God and how he might use what's before us. So I think, Maddie, I'm watching you for my time. 2 minutes left. Excellent. I would just challenge you, each of you, as we celebrate this Veterans Day, 11/11/11, 11/11/16, 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month. Let me just read this to you as well. This was very pertinent, I think, during this election. Isaiah 43:18-9. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the desert and the streams in the wasteland. Now, of course, this is probably to the Israelites, but we can claim it for us moving forward. God has definitely done things differently. We've seen his hand on Donald Trump. Donald Trump has come through so many different times, victoriously and triumphantly, when many said he was dead, done, and would no longer be victorious. I don't think that the God who brought him through all those things thus far will drop him now. When God appoints, he anoints. And I think that we can continue to pray for Donald Trump's anointing, direction, godly leaders, wise counsel, that he will continue forward and hold the line physically, politically, and legally, while verbally maybe being a little more encompassing as he becomes a leader for all. Gregg Cummings, thank you for joining me today.
You bet. Thank you so much for having me.
Folks, I hope you've been encouraged. We have a reprieve. Let's make sure we're good stewards of it, as Gregg has encouraged us to be. Go forward now, be encouraged, and never be complacent.